Vice President, Congress, it's a great pleasure to move the President's address at Congress 2019, particularly at such an incredibly pivotal moment for our movement and for our country. But before I start, can I say this? 2 weeks ago I passed a personal milestone. 1,000 days after my heart transplant, my fourth life-saving operation, and I'm now 1,010 days into my new life. I am here because of the creation, the greatest creation of the British Labour movement, our creation, our National Health Service. Our National Health Service, our doctors, our nurses, our surgeons, our radiographers, our physiotherapists, our cleaners, our caterers, our porters, our admin staff, our paramedics, our community nurses, and so many more, all of them a team who recognise what public service is all about. Congress, let's give them a fantastic ovation for our NHS. Congress, I want to make this point. The staff who treated me in Papworth, like the staff who treat all of our friends and our families and the citizens of this country, they came from all parts of Britain, but they came from all parts of the world. From Africa, from Asia, from Eastern Europe, from all parts of this globe. And Congress, when people tell us we don't want any more migrants, our country is full up, I say, thank God that migrants came to this country, and we should carry on welcoming them in the best spirit of our movement. Congress, we don't just thank them for coming here because of the fabulous role that they play in our public services, but because it is only as a result of centuries of immigration that our society has been culturally enriched because of the contribution that people made from all over the world. And Congress, let us stay loud and proud. It is not migrants who are to blame for homelessness, for low pay, or for terrible working conditions. It is the Tories, it is the austerity measures, and it is greedy politicians. So migrants must always be welcome here. Congress, I want to say and pay a few tributes before I get to the crux of my address. Firstly, Congress, can I give tribute to my mother and father? Neither of them are no longer with us, but both of whom not only adopted me and my sister at a very young age from a Catholic orphanage, but gave us the best growing up anyone could want. I want to also thank my family in the gallery, my daughter Imogen and my son Reese, who have been through so much and put up with such a lot, as many of our families do when we are active in the Labour movement. And conference, I also want to thank my wife Ruth, who has given me the most fantastic support, but I also want to thank her publicly for all her formidable campaigning on behalf of women's rights. I salute you and all those women who campaign for you. Congress, I also want to say this. I want to thank my union, PCS. In my view, some of the best activists and some of the best staff in the trade union movement. It is a brilliant union, one that I am proud to have been General Secretary of for now 20 years. And whilst there are too many people to name, I want to pay particular tribute to our former President, sadly not with us here to hear this speech, Janice Godrich, who has suffered ill health over the last 12 months because of her commitment to this movement. Janice, along with the rest of our delegation, I want to pay tribute to you for everything you've done over many decades in this movement. I also want to thank Francis and Paul. I want to thank all the TUC staff. People are often quick to criticise, but Francis and Paul and all the staff have done an absolutely fantastic job. All of this Congress, everything that happened this week, is because of people behind the scenes who work so hard for all of the movement. Can I thank you and thank the TUC for the work that you've done? And finally, I want to thank someone who also isn't with us. I want to thank my organ donor and his family, without whose gift I would not be here today. And I want to remind this Congress, 3 people die every day in this country because of a lack of organ donors. I want to urge anyone who has not considered or spoken about agreeing to be an organ donor to do so, and I want to pay public tribute to the Welsh Labour government, the first in the UK, to move the law to presume consent, which has already saved dozens of lives. Thank you, everyone. To get into my speech, I want to pay tribute to Sally Hunt. Sally Hunt, I think last year gave probably the best President's address that I have ever heard in all the time I came to this Congress. Sally is now retired and has suffered ill health, and I'm sure Congress would want to pay tribute to Sally for her fantastic contribution. And I, unlike Sally, would be lighting a match at the rostrum, but I want to remind anyone who was here last year that she spoke movingly of our history and explained how we are powerful agents for change. And she ended by telling us we don't just observe history, we make it. So today, Congress, in that spirit, I want to, in celebrating our past, talk about what we are going to do to be ready to stand up for the unprecedented threats that we face, and to ask ourselves as a movement, what more are we going to do to not just fight this government and all that they represent, but the austerity measures that they have brought in, and how we can rise to the challenges ahead. Because Congress, my starting point is this. When I was younger, I couldn't believe that there could ever be a worse duo than Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. They stood against everything that our movement was built on and everything that we stood for. Right-wing ideologues trying to smash the unions, dismantle the welfare states, and privatise everything that moved. For Congress, I want to make this observation. I believe the threat posed by Donald Trump and Boris Johnson is even greater and even worse than the threat posed to us by Thatcher and Reagan. And I say that not just because they share the same right-wing ideology, because they share the same free market obsession that doesn't care about real people in their communities, but because they are different in this extent. They don't abide by the normal rules, they pretend not to be ordinary politicians, they pretend to be the friends of the working woman and the working man, whereas in fact, Boris Johnson is no cuddly person who gets his lines mixed up and is a creature of fun. He is a vicious, nasty, right-wing bigot who we have to challenge. Congress, anyone who thinks that's over the top, think about this. Whoever before has seen an American president addressing a rally of 8,000 people who disgracefully chanted, "Send her back," at Ilham Omar, a Muslim Somali congresswoman, and he stood there and did nothing. Now, Congress, Trump may not be a fascist, but that to me was reminiscent of a fascist rally. It encourages the fascists, and it encourages those people to be emboldened to take to the streets and to do everything that we must fight against. So Congress, I ask you to join me now in sending a message of solidarity to the 4 black congresswomen and say we are with you and we are against everything that Trump Congress, in that vein, I also want to say the TUC has done a fantastic job this year, standing up against all the international areas that we are worried about, particularly standing up against far-right movements and governments in Brazil, Colombia, Turkey and Palestine. And Congress, I want to say in my speech, whatever else we do, let none of them rest, none of us rest, until we have seen the achievement of a free, independent Palestinian state. We will not be silent and we stand with you in your rights to a sovereign nation, taking alongside the state of Israel. The Congress this week, the man of the people, Alexander Boris de Johnson, who sounds probably like one of the most poshest prime ministers we've ever had. Our task is not to worry about if he's the poshest, but it's to make him the shortest serving prime minister in British history. The Congress, this man and his right-wing government, along with Donald Trump, will wreak havoc against everything we stand for. This is a Prime Minister who has in his cabinet a Home Secretary who supports returning to the death penalty and another cabinet right to an abortion, even in cases of rape. These people are not one nation, moderate conservatives, they are bad enough. These are right-wing fanatics, and while we're at it, they are fanatics backed by that person behind the scenes, Dominic Cummings, who also opposes everything that we stand for. And these people would cause us real problems in normal times. But Congress, these are not normal times. We stand on the verge of a no-deal Brexit, which I hope we can all agree. Whether people voted Leave or Remain, whether your union campaign Leave or Remain, everyone in this hall must recognise that our duty should to say and do everything in our power to fight to stop a no-deal Brexit with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. Because we should be clear, for those who argue for leaving the European Union from a left perspective, they are arguments that we should respect whether we agree with them or not. But it is impossible, even for those who believe it, to have a progressive or left-wing Brexit that is run by fundamental right-wing fanatics, so all of us must fight to stop this country crashing out without a deal on the 30th of November. And conference in agreeing that, I hope we can also agree that cancelling Parliament was an outrageous anti-democratic act by the government, and we should applaud the hundreds of thousands of people who have demonstrated in towns and cities from Aberystwyth to Cambridge, from Glasgow to Plymouth, from London and every city and town in between. We welcome what you have done. We urge there to be more protests and demonstrations, and Congress, if we don't get an election on our terms and Boris Johnson seeks to cling on, I hope we can agree that we will mobilise the biggest, massive national demonstration to force Johnson out of office and pave the way for a Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour government. Congress comes in clear. To all those who have been lukewarm, cold or even freezing in their sort of attitude to Jeremy Corbyn, can we all agree this? Jeremy Corbyn, in my view, is one of the most principled, brave, conviction politicians that I have seen in this country. And everyone now has a task to stop the sniping, stop the briefing behind the scenes, and yes, this includes Tom Watson. All of us have to agree to unite behind John McDonnell, Jeremy Corbyn and the Shadow Cabinet, because through unity and appealing to our people, we can ensure that we can drive Johnson out of office. And anyone who has any doubts, remember how high the stakes are. Our members live in universal credit Britain. We have disabled people committing suicide. We have people sanctioned when they visit the job centre for being a few minutes late for their appointment. We have 300,000 people officially homeless, 4,000 sleeping rough on the streets. Who cannot have seen them on the streets of Brighton this week? The average life expectancy of a person sleeping on the streets is 45. This is a country where women today have a lower life expectancy than their mothers. It is a country where the filthy rich put their money in the Cayman Islands instead of paying their way to fund our NHS, our hospitals, and our public services. So conference, there has never been more at stake. And that means we need a radical Labour government, but we also need radical unions prepared to stand up in the workplace to ensure that whatever happens in an election, we are well prepared to stand up for our members and to ensure that we can win in the workplace. And that means, Congress, we should learn lessons ourselves. We are half the size we were in 1979. We welcome the fact that this year there has been a growth in trade union membership of 100,000. Step in the right direction, but still far too modest. Congress, we need to be better at working together. We need to avoid squabbling amongst ourselves in recognition arguments when actually the real issue is the millions of people who are not in any union. And Congress, yes, we need to see more joint union action, and I stand here today proud of the fact that in 2011, my union, along with many others in the public sector, had what I think was one of our finest moments. The 2011 public sector pension strike of 29 unions and 2 million people on strike. If we could do it then in 2011, if the Tories continue to rob us of our pensions like they are currently doing, we should do that again to defend public sector pensions and all of our members. Congress, there are other things we need to do. digital technology to assist in organising. I have seen the difference that can make, and I'm proud that my own union is leading the way, and I think is ready to assist any other to give any help we can in ensuring we use digital technology to enhance our activist work in the workplace. We need vibrant union presence in every workplace, and we need to stop being worried about being seen as fighting for what we believe in. And Congress, I want to give you a story of one dispute involving my own union that tells us everything we need to know about austerity Britain. Tomorrow we'll be joined with what I think are currently some of the bravest women and men in the UK. Low-paid workers, mainly black women, many of the migrant workers on strike at BEIS headquarters in London. Now entering their 9th week of indefinite strike action, fighting for the London living wage, the right to get sick pay, and the right to be brought back in-house into the public sector where they belong. And Congress, these workers, not just on strike, but they put food on the plates for some of the richest people in the globe who come to BEIS to meet Tory ministers. So imagine the scene, that when they're at work, they put food on the plates of the rich and famous, and on their way home they go to the union room where we have to set up a food bank in order that they could take food home to feed their families because the private contractor didn't pay them on time, it didn't pay them correctly, and it looked on indifferent, while workers in the public sector could not afford to put food on the table. Conference, I hope you can agree with me. That is the story about austerity Britain, about how the Tories do not care about our people, about how our workers in BEIS have not observed or sat on the sidelines. They joined the union membership has quadrupled, and when they're here tomorrow, I want you to give them the most fantastic welcome because they stand in the best traditions of everything that we believe in. And in saying that, Congress, I want also to give a shout out for the many fantastic and inspiring disputes we've seen this year. Whether it is the women in the Glasgow equal pay strike, whether it is the mainly women healthcare workers in Birmingham, the bin collectors in Birmingham, the RMT staff fighting in some cases for many months against driver-operated only trains, the workers occupying the shipyards of Harland and Wolff, the workers in McDonald's and Deliveroo and TGI Fridays, showing young people to join unions and take action when we encourage them to. And Conference, can I also, on this rostrum, give our comrades in the CWU my and I hope all your solidarity with their We Rise Again campaign to smash the ballot turnouts and show the CWU and to show your members and the management that you are determined to fight for justice in the postal industry. Let's give all those workers to Congress, as I go to close, I want to also say this. There is a new emerging youth movement currently taking place in this country around the question of a climate emergency. I remember back in 2010 when many of us thought that the unions were not acting quickly enough in response to austerity, that it was the student movement that lit the touch paper to people fighting back against the then betrayal of the Lib Dems. And let's not forget, Jo Swinson can say what she wants, but she is an Orange Book Liberal who supported all the austerity measures, and they offer our people no hope in this country, and we should not be taken in by the Liberal Democrats. The Conference then, it was students that helped create the conditions for all of us to go on and take action on pensions. So I hope we can agree this week and also hope to see the maximum union participation in the climate strike on September the 20th, because this planet is facing a crisis and our movement has to stand up and say to young people, we are with you and we will fight against this climate problem and changes that are required. So Congress, I finish with this. We need strong unions, we need a radical Labour government. John McDonnell came to my conference earlier in the year and he said, quote, when Labour get into office, they will bring the trade unions with them into government. Now I thought that was sort of a metaphorical bit of rhetoric, but we did our research and indeed there is historical precedent. In the 1960s, the Harold Wilson government did indeed bring the General Secretary of the Transport and General Workers Union into the Cabinet. So Congress, I hope you join me in urging Frances to clean her diary, because she may well have a more important job to do in the weeks ahead. And I hope we can all agree that in that election, if we get a Labour government, what we want them to do and why we're going to fight for them to the nail is because they are pledged to return to public ownership our railways, our utilities, to bring back into our ownership all those important utilities, to end the two-tier workforce in the public sector, to give us a fair tax system, a fair benefit system, and to restore and give proper funding to our workers in the health service, the education service, and let us remember our amazing council workers who work for councils who have had 40% budget cuts. Our councils need funding, we need more council workers, and we salute those of you who work for councils in the front line for all the hard work you do in impossible circumstances. Congress, we know there's going to be an election, and the one thing unique about our movement is we have the ability to unite everyone. And we have to ensure that whether our members vote to leave or remain, they look to us and they look to a radical Labour government to unite everyone, to abolish austerity and not allow Brexit to be the fault line that the Tories want it to be. Now, Boris Johnson will pretend that he is on the side of the 52%. Congress, Boris Johnson is not with the 52%, he is with the 1% of the richest people in this country, and we have to ensure that every worker is not taken in and recognises what is at stake. To win, we want Labour to champion the struggles of its friends in the trade union movement, to advocate an alternative to austerity in all our communities, to fight against discrimination, and to build confidence of workers and young people in this country that they can and will be a better future. It is only a Labour government that will unite all our members, whether they voted leave or remain. So Congress, in finishing, I want to say how proud I am to serve as the TUC President, how proud I am of everything that we've done in the last year and the years before it, and how proud I am of our movement and of its history. For Congress, I want us all to be proud of not what we've done in the past, but to be proud of what we're going to do today, tomorrow, next week, and in the months ahead. Let us not observe, let us step up. Let us struggle in the workplace, take action when we need to, fight for justice for all our members in the public and private sector. Let us unite to get a radical government that is truly for the many and not the few. Let us unite to defeat the Tories and get rid of this rotten government. And in the year that marks 200 years since the Peterloo massacre, I'll leave you with these thoughts. The words of Shelley, ye are many, they are few. Let's bring down the government and let's get a fair society. Congress, I'm very good.